Bloodborne's staple weapon, featured prominently alongside the hunter's set, the saw cleaver. Before I say anything, I do not use beast blood pellets. I am aware that by spamming L1 with this class you'll rapidly build meter. However, I am still bad and get hit a ton in combat, as you can see here against Orphan, who was not a first try victory today. Decreased damage absorption prevents me, as a player, from feeling confident in employing that strat. Besides, by foregoing Beast Blood in most runs, the Beast Claw will essentially have its own bespoke mechanic. Suboptimal choices aside, Saw Cleaver always seemed to me as the true neutral in Bloodborne, the baseline with which all other classes innovate from. I also viewed it as one of the stronger weapons, as it is often used by high-level players in challenge runs. I've long held the perspective that the Saw Cleaver, despite being a starting weapon, was the creme de la creme, the cream of the crop, our undeniable king of S tier, C tier for now. 2 episodes into the series and I've already destroyed my credibility. Now, put down your pitchforks, and torches, and axes, and muskets, and sickles. I feel certain of my reasoning. Perhaps it is best to begin through listing Saw Cleaver pros, or rather pro singular. Speed. Lying at the core of each strong asset, Saw Cleaver combat is flippant and freeform. Powerful attacks, such as L1, play out so quickly a player finds no shortages of chances to whip one out. Upon learning you can combo L1 from a roll, say no more. Thumerian Descendant, of all bosses, showcases this unique boon. Yes, I'm starting to learn Bloodborne's rougher fights, as you'll see later. Approaching with a quick step at adequate distance, one dodges his twitchy instant jabs, providing a window most weapons could only R1 in, yet Saw Cleavers snag a meaty L1. Tons of time remains to dash out and maintain the stifling dance. And if he delays, even R2 is viable. Descendant also demonstrates other ideal Saw Cleaver usage. The class is famous for its wicked fast charge, making chain backstabs possible, skipping phase 2. Base R1 is so free, you can spam 2, or 3, or just keep mashing till something goes wrong. Attacking once genuinely feels like a waste. You're left with heaps of wiggle room, so much opportunity on a typically restrictive boss. Or don't use base R1, instead opting for transformed combat. Forgo spacing, simply strike right after dodging, no need to stay point blank. That's if you pause prior to swinging. Rolling attacks flick out a sweep possessing great horizontal coverage. Very appreciated in a sluggish moveset composed of thin vertical chops that are commonly interrupted. Wait, that doesn't sound positive. Saw Cleavers are a jack of all trades, not a master of none. They're damn near deficient in all aspects besides speed. Though speed amounts to little when you can't connect. You kinda have to connect with a target to attack. Easier said than done using such stubby range. Not sure what I expected, but turns out Saw Cleavers, and by extension other weapons of this archetype, the spear and scythe, best resemble fist weapons at base, here turning into a two-handed broadsword. R1 combos consist of a flurry of swipes not dissimilar to a flurry of punches, albeit less flaily, more swift. Coverage stays the same, a small hitbox you should see whiff often. Sometimes mid-combo despite being so close you could taste your target. Don't be surprised if the weak stun leads to dropped combos either. L1s can tech chase, but windup is normally too slow to do so. There's notable dead zones above and below to be mindful of, though for what it's worth you get nice backswings covering your flanks. Contrary to DS3 fists, DPS unfortunately isn't gratuitous. Saw Cleavers will find themselves hacking away for long stretches, especially in their dominant matchups, large lumbering beasts. These bloody revelries rarely result in erasing health bars. Properly leveled builds will likely exhaust stamina entirely before the Scourge Beast drops. Definitely worth, debatably necessary, to spec endurance for Saw Cleavers. Outside bestial bouts wherein serration makes base form desirable, enemies frequently slip out of this class's grasp, getting away only suffering a couple strikes. Again, like lightweights, individual attacks accomplish little, so missed combos hurt. I'm inclined to promote poison gems, R1 density racking up status procs, or rapid poison not so highly impractical and broadly ineffectual, and slow poison gems being outclassed in every way by poison knives. In those poor matchups, one would naturally lean on a weapons extended kit, following up with L1s. I said you've ample time left over after an R1. I never said it was truly extensive. Transforming is fast, not always fast enough to recover from. Extending a combo begets punishment, or induces a whiff from misjudged timing. Mainly in the late game, it must be said. Early on, Saw Cleaver gets off scot-free haphazardly navigating encounters. Speed continues to be valuable. I found myself making several mistakes, greedily button mashing, concluding fights with minimal losses. This class can be played mindlessly. Actually, I kinda think it promotes mindlessness, which I find to be a negative. Combat is the antithesis of restrictive, yet restriction breeds innovation. The cane made me discover valuable action strings, exploring my kit and refining strategy. See Orphan of Kos, now compare it to Cleaver. Man's is literally just pressing buttons, head empty, brain disengaged. Obvious exception, bigger attacks produce bigger staggers. L1 is spammable and they net riposte when possible, but not all enemies fall, and not all reel substantially. Those scenarios find complex arrangements comparable, even inferior, to R1 spam. Saw Cleaver seems like there's freedom of expression in battle, but I can't count the amount of times I get carried away, view the results, and realize pressing one button would have dealt greater damage. Combine that revelation with aforementioned lackluster individual strike value. Damned if I do, damned if I don't, the Saw Cleaver never rose above baseline effectivity. All options are flatly mediocre. Combat is shallow. Because of this equalized value, and the few true strengths proving niche, staggers not always being possible, speedy attacks not reaching, the Saw Cleaver doesn't promote skill expression, leading to gameplay where I never really learned anything. There was nothing to learn. Press L1, bam, you've mastered advanced Cleaver tech. It's a skill tree with only one skill. I was bored playing this class, and frustrated at times. NPCs suck. They fulfill the prior criteria. Too agile, no staggers. What do I even do? My kit provides no means to swing odds in my favor. Well, how about we stay transformed, stay cleaving? We'll find a significant trade-off in speed for average range. To be fair, it's a good deal longer than base form, but it's still short. For a while, I equated transformed to a greatsword, the purely vertical R1s, R2 sweeps, but I ultimately had to admit that it's not that great. Merely a sword. A long sword, yes, not a two-hand sword. It ain't because Bloodborne lacks poise that it does make the speed loss debilitating. Reach is comparable to a two-handed straight sword. Power is unchanged from base. Like a straight sword, Saw Cleaver fails to excel. Not strong enough to chunk down health bars, not versatile enough to outplay tricky opponents. Speed makes combat safe and play out slow. Yet if we factor in previously stated flippancy, the engendered carelessness, that safety is undermined. Swords usually augment their mediocrity with beneficial thrusts. We're not discussing a Saw Spear. The Saw Cleaver, cleaves. Serration is the only damage modifier present. Adept gems are worthless. Scaling favors strength slightly, but is balanced enough to support quality investment, and low enough to not see dramatic boosts from heavier sharp gems. Chalices are way less exciting when large swaths of novel drops aren't helpful. So what can you do with a transformed cleaver? Well, that's a good question. It's a touch better at crowd control thanks to R2's stepping sweep. Granted, short charge delay can lead to interruption surrounded by enemies. Mobbing in this state needs to be methodical. That narrow hitbox punishing my unfaltering commitment to no lock-on. Needless to say, my weapon of choice left me unsatisfied. Or perhaps I was merely projecting. Perhaps the source of my poor experience lies in this run's other focus, root chalice testing. I tasked myself to explore every root chalice in sequence to determine how they'll be integrated into weapon percent, a goal that has been accomplished and has somewhat solidified their implementation. I keep going back and forth on a few points. To summarize, depths 1 through 3 will not be included, unless a weapon variant can be found in a neglected chalice. I'll still be using false depth glyphs to obtain every class early, but once a version is obtained, all remaining variants must be found through legitimate means. This adds bespoke character and story to each run, giving rise to potential factors impacting the overall performance of a class. Locking away certain imprint combinations can lead to suboptimal loadouts depending on a player's available gems. Triangle slots aren't very helpful if you don't benefit from adept gems. Meanwhile, lacking waning can limit elemental coverage, lowering damage versus key threats like kin. In the case of the Saw Cleaver, I had to do one extra lower Thumaru Chalice to find my last cleaver. I found a spear before I found that one, but luckily I didn't have to make a third dungeon. The reason depth 4 and 5 are required is simple. Those chalices can be cursed. Gem drops in fetid and rotted dungeons won't be substantially different from fixed dungeon drops unless they're cursed. Gems have a much higher chance of being cursed in cursed dungeons. Runes as well only become common and powerful in lower depths. Coffin treasure is underwhelming early on, thus doesn't reward layer exploration. Now, Ailing the Ran cannot be cursed, so why include it? Simple. Bolt radials. My first horror story to share with the class. I was fooled by the Threaded Cane's false step farming. Labyrinth warriors only spawn in Thumaru Chalices, and therefore cannot drop strong radials with Loran and Iz effects, meaning you're reliant on those areas' enemy pools to drop radials with those effects. Since areas are designed to almost exclusively drop a specific shape, waning for Loran, triangle for Hintertomb and Iz, you'll need incredibly rare out-of-shape drops. Highly impractical. Boss gems? Forget about it. I don't even want to imagine how long it would take to get an out-of-shape abyssal. That's not always required. Fire radials are actually easy to get. Watchdog drops fire gems, and they can be found in abundance in Thumaru. Arcane 2, although kinda locked to the endgame, is commonly found as a secondary odd gem effect. Additionally, there's a main game arcane droplet in Mensis next to the Blood Rock, and Descendant and Elder drop cold gems. Bolt, however, is truly nightmarish. As far as I'm aware, only Loran bosses can drop them, so the effect is virtually locked to waning gems. There's one exception. By applying the additional Rite Rotten to a ritual, select enemies will be added to dungeon generation. In that short list are Tomb Prospectors. The Bone Ash NPC specifically appears to drop solely radials, regardless of area. Now, they're primarily physical, but it is possible for a legit bolt radial to generate, as seen on screen. JK, you've been duped. The gem's minuscule secondary effect converts the weapon to fire damage, overriding the bolt waning because Bloodborne is a stupid fucking piece of shit. I looked for so long for just one bolt radial. I generated a whole ass other FRC Lower Loran dungeon to search. Why? Let's return to the rotten enemy pool. 5 potential generations of 3 enemies can occur. Witches, NPCs, Rite Keepers, Witches and NPCs, and Witches and Rite Keepers. Each has roughly equal chances of occurring, 16 to 17%, Witches being twice as likely to spawn in Hintertomb. I made 8 Rotten Chalices, saw 0 Rite Keepers, and got almost exclusively Witches in the back half. To be fair, altogether, pulling Witches is a coin flip, a toss-up I lost consistently in the endgame. To add insult to injury, prior to weapon percent, Keeper Dogs were my most hated enemy. After the Cane, I grew to hate Bone Ash NPCs more. Saw Spear speed, Hunter agility, and Fire Paper make for an infuriating fight, hemorrhaging resources. Upon farming them, I did develop counterplay, not just for them, but hunters writ large. My strategy was misguided. You simply don't have time to counter after a roll, nor does a weapon like a Saw Cleaver keep a keeper pinned down. Instead, position so as to outspace their transformed strikes, attacking during the prone recovery frames, or zone out the base form with your own transformation. There's a method to the madness, despite my initial salty impression. Witches, on the other hand, are pure madness. Don't be fooled. While famously difficult to identify the archetype at a glance to tell what witch you're dealing with, Chalice witches do not function like Hemwick witches. The boss spawns mad ones periodically, only if the player has insight. Chalice mad ones see no such workaround. Not only that, unlike bell ringers, these mad ones aren't on a timer. They respawn immediately, infinitely, directly next to the witch, aggroed, and actionable. Mad ones see through blue elixir. Mad ones are not lured by blood cocktails. Mad ones can quickly close in and will react to nearby enemies being hit by pebbles. Supposedly Shaman Boneblade works, and they're drawn to noise, such as banned guns, but in practice you're fucked. Oh yeah, bell ringers. They generate independently alongside witches. Look at this Defiled Root Chalice. When I die and go to hell, this will be my eternal torment. It really makes you feel like Mahler playing Best Souls 2. Bro, look at this Lower Loran layout. A Wandering Keeper with 2 dogs, a Static Silver Beast with 2 dogs, a Witch hid behind Geometry, by design by the way, 2 Scourge Beasts, and a Pyromancer on a trap bridge. The second one's even better. Same room layout, swap the Witches for trigger-happy Canehurst Knights. That's a goddamn ROM hack. Depth 5 FRC Chalices are literally Kaizo Dark Souls. and I'm stuck with a damn saw cleaver! Bosses are practically an afterthought upon completing the preceding layer, surprisingly due to their minimal resistance. That second Loran route pitted me against a cursed dark beast, which I shockingly beat first try. I bitched about my saw cleaver a lot, but it is quite good against beasts, even if maintaining base form for serration can feel limiting. It dropped one of 2 shite bolt abyssals I got this run, lowering durability, dramatically impacting the practicality of any loadout. My other wasn't cursed, yet shared the slight rallying boost which siphoned its bolt bonus, leaving it greatly inferior to a random kin-hunting secondary waning gem enemy drop. Cool. My final abyssal was Cold Waning from Ithil Elder possessing the worst curse, Attack Down. If that was out of shape, fucking kill me. Still stronger than my other arcane gems apparently, Bloodborne does not want you to have elemental loadouts. Was nice to free up some arcane scaling radials though, upgrading the nourishing main game gem on the Bolt Cleaver. Still stuck using an HP depletion curse nourishing drop I got from Defiled Amygdala, the easiest of the defiled bosses. Saw Cleaver can't zone out Watchdog. I gotta risk getting clipped and stomped. It's possible via L1s to keep him stun locked like Dark Beast luckily. Keeper? Very frustrating. I drop combos constantly. I did not appreciate how easily the cane strolls through Defilement. At least, after long last, I got a passable bolt weapon to use on remaining kin, like Living Failures. Pretty sure these relatable fellows feature Bloodborne's highest health pool, which got shredded by my 5th +10 Saw Cleaver's dirty murky gems I incidentally picked up. Yeah, all those repetitive root chalice bosses loaded me up on Bloodstone. I had 2 extra blood rocks in my inventory. I never even grabbed either New Game nor New Game Plus DLC rocks. Had all 5 worthwhile gem builds at my disposal. This image gives me quite the erection. Shame no other run is likely to recreate it. Won't be doing enough routes to fund variant duplicates. Anyway, Living Failures were cheesed by Rapid Poison, but our remaining DLC bosses pose 0 threat on New Game Plus. It wasn't just Bloodstone, roots got me over level 200. Depth 5 coffins bolstered defense to such a degree that 70 Vigor face-tanked Maria and Lawrence. Orphan did kill me once though. Ludwig was at least engaging, he is From's best boss for a reason. Phase 1 and 2 were excellent duels. Wrapping up FRC Chalices, I've officially conquered a cursed Ebrietas. I now know when to approach, what tentacle attacks to challenge, which jabs are easily outspaced, also I can save healing for undodgeable charges. Descendant, as alluded to, has also become tenable. Always dodging in both covers jabs and combos into L1s, maximizing value every opening. Elder Mastery continues to accrue, as does Bloodletting Tech. I'm no longer guaranteed to be interrupted by the dumb full-body hitboxes. Abhorrent could use some work though. I still struggle to consistently avoid his AoEs, and I've yet to run into a cursed ROM. I'd fear potential spider one-shots, but those occur regardless of additional rights. Concluding today's run and our experiment, let's start by ranking this Saw Cleaver for real. To my, and probably your, utter dismay, it does actually find itself in C tier, the same rank as DS3's Spear, sans Pike, on account of their comparable mediocrity. Saw Cleavers are painfully simple. Wicked speed and staggering L1s are outweighed by inadequate reach and approach tools. Sweeping coverage is locked behind lengthier animations, quick trades become impractical late game. Saw Cleavers do you no favors in Bloodborne's hardest challenges, and thus is inferior to the Threaded Cane, whose excellent coverage and entertaining combos elevate the class to B tier. Honestly, Saw Cleaver's biggest flaw is entertainment value. Shit's just boring as fuck to use. On to rule set changes. False Step dungeons are to be largely rooted out. This does give Threaded Cane an unfair advantage in retrospect, to which I say, whoops. Not saying false depth grinding is banned. If I'm still lacking radials when I reach depth 5 routes in our revamped progression guide, I'll farm them. What can I say, Labyrinth Warriors are fun. Other gem types are off limits though. Iz and Loran provide plenty of usable elemental gear. I may save scum to get rotted lower Loran with Bone Ash guys instead, but it'll be a case-by-case basis, so like whatever I feel like doing that stream. Speaking of streaming, catch all these runs live on Twitch. Currently working on Hunter Axe, and first impression suggests we've found the best starting weapon. Not big on streams, subscribe to catch up via a daily deluge of shorts which won't flood your notifications. I only turn them on for scripted videos like this. As for scripted content, do not be misled by the absurd turnaround of Saw Cleaver post Threaded Cane. It's gonna be a while till Hunter X gets completed and covered. The start of 2026 is looking pretty busy for me. I just wanted to capitalize on Bloodborne Weapon Percent's first episode's unexpected momentum. YouTube showed one of my videos for once. Neat. On that final note, if you're looking for more Souls content in the interim, DS3 Weapon Percent is a 7-hour compilation of all 26 DS3 classes, and Gundir's Elden Ring LARP run may be good to check out too. That series is shaping up to continue at some point this year. Hope to see you around, and hope that my offensive saw cleaver take didn't scare everybody off.